Welcome in, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Spot Monkeys Live. I am Jim, joined as always by my good friend Tom Bobo. Tom, how are you doing?
Super. Very, very happy. We are entering the month of September. August was a long month, but a good month. And again, September means the start of fall-ish time. It's technically not fall, but football season is right around the corner. I know we've mentioned football here a number of times in the podcast, and the final kind of quarter of the calendar year, which is always fun when you think of, if at least for me, I'll say football, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, traditions. It's all good.
Absolutely. No, I'm the same way. Yeah, we've talked about football a lot on here. We've even talked about a football preview podcast, which may or may not get done. I don't know. Schedules are just crazy right now. But who knows? Maybe that'll happen. If not, maybe at least in a week or two, we'll make one or two really quick projections or something. But yeah, it's fun time of year, and it's also a fun time of year because All Out is coming up, and that is pretty much all that our show is dedicated to today. Although, let's be honest, we'll rabbit hole off into something else at some point, because that's what we do. Two Spot Monkeys in a Rabbit Hole could be our subtitle. But All Out is the focus today, and making our head-to-head picks for this weekend show. Tom, with it being a holiday weekend, are you hoping to watch this show live, or are you unsure yet?
I think this might sound like a broken record. I would love to watch this show live, but I'm pretty certain I've said that before when it comes to AEW and even WWE for that matter, even though I'm much higher on AEW. I don't know what our plans are as a family come Sunday. I know that we have plans with friends on the docket without a firm date. My fear is that will materialize on Sunday instead of Saturday, and if that does happen, it pushes the watching of All Out for sure. So I can tell you this: come Sunday, if that does happen, I'm gonna probably just turn off my phone for like 36 hours, and then I'll probably wake up early Monday on the holiday and order. I think you can order the replay on demand, at least with my cable company. So that's probably what I would do.
Yeah, and I'm traveling this weekend for a family obligation, so I will definitely not be seeing it on Sunday. I did take we'll drive back here on Monday. I did take Tuesday off though, so that is the plan. Is much like you, I think my phone's pretty much, at least social media wise, going to be off from I don't know, about 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon until I watch the show on Tuesday. So yeah, that's my plan. I'm going to see it, but going to be a little bit later, but that's okay. But as you know, we like to make head-to-head picks here. We always have a bet for each half year, and which Tom has won a couple of times in a row now, but dun, I'm currently leading by a whole match. Whole one match.
I like the sound effect there too. Dun, 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 dun.
Little theme music. That's good. I am currently 27-5, and Tom is 26-6, which I don't know if that speaks to how good we are at predicting or how predictable companies are with their pay-per-views. But maybe both. Maybe a little bit of both. I don't know. We'll see. But we have 10 matches to pick. Sorry, Fantasy Wrestling League popped in my head there. 10 matches. I will have 10 matches to score on Tuesday when I watch this. But 10 matches to pick for head-to-head today. That's too bad we don't edit this show. I could take that out. But no, our editors also work with our Crackbot research team. So 10 matches to pick. Tom, you get to go first, however, because again, I'm leading. I'm just going to keep saying that because I don't get to say it very often in this competition lately. But you get the first pick, and we're starting off with the barn burner of the night, I think. The Big Show, the former Big Show, no more BS. I do like that as a tagline, by the way. Paul White gets his first in-ring match in AEW as he takes on QT Marshall. I mentioned to you this before we started recording. I kind of feel like this could get pushed to the buy-in, but maybe they'll add something else on Dynamite. We're recording this on Wednesday morning early, so Dynamite has not happened yet, or Rampage for that matter. I got to remember there's 2 shows now. So maybe this won't. Maybe something else will. But White and Marshall, what are you thinking, Tom?
Yeah, this is fine. Very basic. It's interesting to me on a loaded show that this is where you have Paul White's in-ring debut for AEW. Again, clearly he's in the sunsetting phase of his career, so I don't expect Darby Allin versus Paul White or someone of that caliber. Miro versus Paul White could have been interesting, but again, that's the quality of match wouldn't be probably what AEW wants. It would be the name versus the name, so that's why you end up here. I think it's going to be very basic. This may be a theme as we talk about a lot of the matches on this card in terms of the future of AEW. It would make sense for QT Marshall to win because he's the younger talent. That being said, I think this is something to get the crowd happy and pop them. So Paul White's my pick here. Not a whole lot more to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is fine. And I think this is a fine use of Paul White. We knew he was going to get some matches. They said that when they signed him. It was fairly clear he was not going to be a regular every week in-ring competitor, and that's good at this point in his career. I think he adds a lot in a lot of other areas and can be that kind of enforcer when you need one, or stand up for the little guy like he did with Tony Schiavone here. But yeah, the story, I don't see this being a drawn-out story. So, the story is Marshall and his crew are bullies. They bullied Tony Schiavone. Now Paul White comes and gets revenge. Lather, rinse, repeat, however that goes. Probably choke slams all of the factory at some point. The only way I could see Marshall getting the win here, although I agree with you for the future, that would make more sense, would be if a Go-Go maybe comes back. But I haven't heard a thing about a Go-Go coming back, and that doesn't mean he isn't. But if he were able to make it back and, maybe he knocks out White and Marshall gets the win, that would be a way I could see it. But I don't think that's happening here. I'm with you. Paul White is the winner on that first match. And that's fine. I'm fine with it. I don't think it hurts QT Marshall either. Marshall is slotted about where I think he belongs, as a kind of lower mid-card annoying heel. I think it works. So he works there, and White works there. White gets the win. We will move on to probably the hardest match to pick, just because of the sheer number of people in it. The women's, and the fact that we don't know everybody yet. The women's Casino Royale Battle Royale, featuring the winner gets a future women's title shot. So far announced: Nyla Rose, The Bunny, Ty Conti, Diamante, Red Velvet, Penelope Ford, Julia Hart, Big Swole, Thunder Rosa, Hikaru Shida, Emi Sakura, and more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 of the 21 people have been announced. There are 10 more to go. You and I could sit here and try to come up with the other 10, but let's not do that because that wouldn't be really riveting audio, I don't think. I will say 2 people. One person that I kind of would expect to see, and another that I would think could be the Joker, although either could be. I'm feeling like it's about time, just from pictures and things like that I've seen, where we might see Anna Jay back. And I think this would be a spot, although she would almost have to be the Joker. You'd hate to just throw her into one of the group of 5 that come out. That would maybe seem a waste if they did that, unless she was the first one announced in the first group or something like that, which could happen. I do have a pick for the Joker before I get to my pick for the match. I think the Joker is Ruby Soho, former Ruby Riott of WWE. A lot of rumors about her coming to AEW. She is now free and clear, I believe, from her contract. So that's going to be my pick for the Joker. We'll see whether that comes. Not that we're picking that. No score on that. But I think Ruby Soho there. I think Soho could win it as the Joker. I think that's a possibility. I think we've only seen Paige won the first Casino Royale as the Joker. Brian Cage, but that was the take the big gold ring thing, wasn't it?
The Sonic the Hedgehog ring. I
right.
Don't
know. So I don't think that wasn't a battle royal. I don't know that the Joker's won. Leo Rush did not win the men's one, obviously, back at Double or Nothing. So I don't know whether the Joker does or not. Thunder Rosa is going to be my pick. I'm going a long way around here because I think getting back to Rosa versus Britt Baker makes a bunch of sense. In fact, I really thought that was going to be the title match for All Out, to be perfectly honest. So a little bit surprised that wasn't the match. I'm going to go with Rosa. And I won't be shocked if I'm wrong because it's a battle royal and they often do things that I don't expect in battle royals.
Yeah, this is tough to pick without a doubt. It's funny that you pick Rosa because I literally 30 seconds before you made that pick, I wrote down Thunder Rosa too. That's my pick as well. I think it makes the most sense. I think when you go back to the classic that she and Britt Baker had earlier this year and how that was unsanctioned, there's a lot of story to be told with Thunder Rosa being a legitimate challenger. Not that she's not legitimate, but this gives her a more legitimate or a clear stake at being a challenger. So I like that pick a lot, and that's why it's my pick too. I also want to just acknowledge, and it's so funny because I know before we recorded, you said, "Oh, I think I know who the Joker is," and I go, "I have no clue." Of course, right before you mentioned Ruby Soho, that was the visual that popped into my mind too. I do think it makes sense that she debut here as well. The AEW women's division's solid, and even though there's 10 more ladies not on this list that could show up, will show up. It's interesting to watch it play out, and the future is bright. And yes, if Anna Jay is ready to come back, she's a bright spot too. Again, I think the big story with Anna Jay is she is incredibly young and incredibly fresh in terms of being a talent. Like I want to say, thinking back to the Jericho podcast where she was on, I think in her career she's maybe got less than 50 matches, and maybe that's true. Maybe it's way less. Maybe it's a little bit above that. It's got to be less than 100. And she's a very big prospect. If you were looking to invest in a talent and you could say, hey, I'm going to buy stock in this person, Anna Jay is that person for me. So.
Yeah, I agree. I was a big fan of hers, and I thought she had come, not that she was bad when she came into AEW, but I thought she had come a long way in ring. I thought she'd gotten really good. Her and Ty Conti were a nice team kind of almost seemed like they were starting to pair together people and maybe looking at a women's tag division, but then things happen and they didn't go that route at least yet, which is I'm actually fine with because I've yet to see a company in a long, long time and maybe ever do right by women's tag team titles. Maybe Impact seems to feature them a little bit more often. But you look at the NXT women's tag team titles, Io Shirai and Zoe Stark haven't been seen since they won them. The WWE women's tag titles, granted, Natalya was hurt, so there's something, but they didn't do anything about it. Women's tag titles, unfortunately, aren't featured. Now, maybe AEW can be the one who eventually bucks that trend. I don't know, but that's another story again for another podcast, perhaps. I did think it was interesting that the Penelope Ford seemed to form some sort of an alliance with the Bunny on, I think that was on Rampage last week. Could have been Dynamite, but it might have been Rampage. Do you remember that, Tom?
I remember there being a backstage thing that they wanted her to be in the HFO.
Well, and she came out after the Bunny had her match with whoever the Bunny had a match with.
Take on Rampage?
Yeah, I think so. And then Penelope Ford came out, and I don't know if she helped her. I can't remember now, but she raised her hand after the match, and they kind of looked at each other and nodded. So I expect you'll see them try to work together in this match. And then probably Penelope Ford eliminate the Bunny because she's the bad girl after all. So, you can't trust her kind of thing.
Well, and let me just pause there. And I said QT Marshall, whatever it is. It's funny how AEW has the names where they are. Like I just said, Tay Conti. It's Ty Conti because it's Tainara. But on the screen, for those of you joining us on YouTube and not just listening through your earbuds and your favorite podcast feed, I get caught up on those. So I just wanted to.
It's spelled Tay, but it's Ty.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And names are, Travis Kelce apparently it's supposed to be Travis Kels, I heard now.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Okay.
And that's from him. He actually said that. So I was okay. I'm never going to remember that and say it right. Oh, sorry. Drafted him on Sunday in a league. I'm very happy about that. Anyways, again, not a football podcast. Let's move on in, I almost said double or nothing, all out picks. You have the first pick here, Tom, and we're going to Jon Moxley versus Satoshi Kojima. Kind of feels like the consolation prize, not getting Tanahashi, but he was needed in Japan, obviously. So what are you thinking about Kojima and Mox?
Well, so I've loved everything that Moxley has done when they brought in New Japan talent. I think about the Nagata match earlier this year. Clearly, Mox has a connection to New Japan, being the former United States champion, having lost that to Archer. Then Archer loses that to Tanahashi. Again, whether folks know or not, the original hope was that it was Tanahashi here and a title rematch for Mox, even though it wasn't the guy he lost the title to. Didn't materialize. Isn't materializing. New Japan has big shows this weekend too. So logistically, it could have worked, I read, but getting all of the moving pieces to coordinate and have Tanahashi be here would have probably been tough. This card also doesn't need it. So if that's what we get down the road, maybe at Full Gear, that'd be sweet. I know there's a lot of New Japan talent that are going to be stateside the rest of 2021, it appears, with a lot of announcements that are out there. And clearly, there's no issue with AEW working with New Japan or using their talent if they're not working together. This is going to be fine. It's going to be fun. I'll tell you this. I think back to, I'm pretty sure it was the last Ring of Honor show that I went to, one of the world's weekends or weeks or tours. And there was a lot of kind of the older New Japan talent, Kojima, Nagata, other guys, in addition to some of the young lions that are in the LA dojo, who are much better now than they were even then, and they were on the rise then. I really enjoyed seeing Kojima and Nagata and other talents at that time. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It's a good use, in my opinion, for Mox right now because Mox isn't in the world title scene. Perhaps this is a platform to move into the TV title scene or TNT, not TV title, TNT title scene. And we'll talk about Mox's cohort getting a shot later in this episode too. But it's a great way to get Mox that win. Kojima's a legend. Him losing to Moxley here doesn't hurt him at all. And I think he more than and when you take out the kind of just the nuts and bolts of the match, Kojima probably doesn't have a problem coming in and putting over Jon Moxley.
Yeah, absolutely. You got a bird that wants to join the podcast, it sounds like, behind you there.
Well,
Tom.
so the windows are open because I don't have to have my air on. So yeah, welcome to the Midwest, September weather.
2-spot monkeys in the great outdoors today. At first I thought maybe it's your dog whining or something. I'm like, no, that's a bird I hear, not a dog. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's no way Kojima wins this match. Let's just start there. So Mox is my pick. I've loved the stuff with Mox. Mox is such a great promo. My nephew sent me a text about a week ago and said, "What happened to Dean Ambrose?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And so then I start searching Twitter. Like I had this panic moment of like, God forbid something happened to him. Like, and I was like, well, what do you mean, bud? And he said, he's not in WWE anymore. And I'm like, oh, we've fallen behind, my friend. We've fallen behind. My brother is not there to bring you along. So I said, well, actually, he went to AEW, explained the whole thing. And I said, you should really check it out. It's pretty good. He's pretty good there. So I think he was going to find a way to try to watch some of it. But Mox has been so good in AEW, whether his world title run, whether his run here, with the New Japan guys, with Eddie Kingston, the tag titles, or the tag title match. I guess they didn't win the titles. But there isn't much he's done that I haven't at least liked. Some I've liked more than others, and hey, that's right. That's life. But man, he's been so good in AEW and so good at building. He's the guy I compared him way back when he was working Dragon Gate USA against Bryan Danielson. I'm sorry, at that point. I compared Moxley to Roddy Piper. And I still think that's a fair comparison because he can talk you into the building. He can make you want to see what he's doing and other people for that matter. He can make me want to pay my money to see what's going to happen because of his promos and the way that he sells things. So count me very, very high on Moxley. No way in heck he's losing to Kojima here at All Out. But I agree with you. Kojima's at a point where Kojima is who he is. There was a time back when he was, let's go in the Wayback Machine, back when he was the MLW world champion way back in the day, where he was probably one of the best in the world. And I don't think he's not one of the best in the world anymore right now. But he's not bad. and they're going to beat the tar out of each other. So it's going to be fun because neither one of these guys have any problem laying it in. So looking forward to this one. Maybe even a little more than the Tanahashi match, to be honest. Don't tell our friend John, but Tanahashi is kind of just meh for me at this point in his career. Not that I seek out Kojima matches, but for Moxley specific, I'm more interested actually in this match than I think I will be the Tanahashi match. Partially because I just like two guys beating the tar out of each other, and I think that's what we're going to get here. So Mox is my winner on that. So far 3 matches in, we are 3 for 3 on the same picks. I think this next match might be one of the more interesting just to see what you think, Tom. But I guess I get the first pick on it is Pac versus Andrade El Idolo in Andrade's first pay-per-view match for AEW. And is it only his second? Has he only had the one? I mean, he hadn't had very many matches. So
no, you're correct. This is his second match.
I mean, goodness gracious. I don't know if Andrade's dealing with an injury that we're just not hearing about or what. His character work has been fine in AEW. Is building his character with Chavo and them trying to talk the Lucha Bros into coming to work for them instead of working for Pac, which of course Pac always has made it very clear that they don't work for him. Andrade needs the win here. And I don't think it hurts Pac to lose to Andrade. I think Pac is close to Teflon. Pac should be higher up the card and should be involved. You know, when he got that world title shot at Double or Nothing in the triple threat, we were all like, where'd that come from? But he should be in that mix. He should be thought of in that mix. I think they need to do a little booking rehab with Pac because I just don't think they've booked him very well. And unfortunately, he was gone for a long time during the pandemic. There's nothing we can do about that. Nothing he can do about it either. But Andrade needs this win. To me, the bigger question is, do the Lucha Bros get involved? And if so, do they turn on Pac? Do they join Andrade? I don't think you need all that. If anything, I think Andrade bringing in a couple of more luchadors, if they can sign some folks that maybe he's connected with or something like that, or even going the Ingobernables road and bringing in some folks, maybe even New Japan Ingobernables in some way, and play off that. If you want to give him more muscle behind him or a couple of people with him, that'd be fine. I like Chavo as a spokesperson because Andrade's English is okay, but not awesome as far as promos go. So Chavo's a great talker and is bilingual, and I think Chavo works in that role. But Andrade gets the win here. Like I said, storyline, I'm just curious to see how they get there.
I agree. And so I was very clear and very adamant that I was not a fan of Andrade's in-ring debut in AEW. Matt Sydal should have been the right opponent for him. It just didn't jive for me when that happened. This should far exceed that. If it doesn't, then we have to really look at what's going on, because the hype on Andrade was guy can literally be one of the best in the world if he's already not considered one of the best in the world in the ring.
Oh, yeah.
It's time to stand and deliver in that space. And I know that might be a little bit premature to say because literally he's had one match, but this is going to be that opportunity, and there's going to be lots of eyes on AEW. From the start, I thought this was him Andrade working his way through the Death Triangle guys. So I'd love to see Pac here, Penta next, and then Phoenix last, only because I have huge affinity for Rey Fenix. And I would agree that none of them lose anything by losing to Andrade. It helps him and it doesn't necessarily hurt them. Again, you have to use talent to get other talent over. That's the way that pro wrestling works, and AEW generally is smart about that. It'll be I just said that out loud, and then you're going to probably find it interesting that I said that when we get down the road, when I make the pick for the Lucha Bros Young Bucks match. I don't see a turn here. That's one thing I definitely will say. I don't see the Lucha Brothers turning on Pac. I think that triangle stays strong. Again, I don't want to advocate for one more set of titles in AEW, but if there was ever a great platform for a 6-man, it's here, and Death Triangle could be a great banner team for that. I think there was maybe some rumblings, and maybe I made this up in my own mind, but Calling them the Brody Lee like 6-man champions. That would be kind of cool. It'd be a great way to memorialize him, and as the year mark of his passing approaches us day by day, having an annual trios tournament, because they've been calling them trios matches in AEW, with him being kind of like, whether it's belts or whether it's a trophy or what have you. MJF has a stupid ring. Anyway, I digress.
Or that he's won twice, yes.
Yeah.
So trios, maybe you get medals.
Maybe, right, yeah. So Andrade gets the win here. I'm really eager to see this match. I do think it's going to be pretty awesome. These two did not ever cross paths in WWE. Is that correct? Is my recall accurate on that, to your knowledge?
I can't think of that. I think Pac was gone by the time Andrade.
Okay, I would think so too. And again, kudos to our research team for being on the ball.
Absolutely. I'm just pulling it up right now, actually, on Pro Fight database. And let's see. Neville. That is true. He does not. Neither Adrian Neville nor Pac appears in Andrade El Idolo's opponents and partners list. So They have not crossed paths before. So first time match, which is pretty cool. And you think about what Andrade did with Rey Mysterio on SmackDown a number of times in the last year. And so, Pac is not the same guy as Mysterio, obviously, because he's obviously a lot more muscular, but he flies a lot like Mysterio. This could be really, really good. Well, Tom, what is your thought on the TNT title match? Miro defends. I don't know what number defense this is, but he's had a few defenses anyways. Miro defends against Eddie Kingston, who he called out.
Yeah, I think this is a great match. The build has been fine. I'm still not clicking with Miro's character. I don't want to call him like God's greatest son or whatever. I'm sure I'm not.
God's favorite champion, I think, maybe. Or
something along those lines, yeah. So it's an interesting character. I think it's walking a perhaps fine line of infusing, religious connotation into it. Miro is one of those other guys. I think you could say that about a number of people on this show. You could say it about Pac. You could say it about Andrade. You can say it about Miro. That their potential is not even close to being touched yet. So there's huge room for all of these talents. So it's spotlights like this that they really have to step up and shine in. But again, that's also a manufactured outcome of so many talented guys and gals in AEW and only so much TV time. I love Eddie Kingston. I hate that he has to be the foil here, but it does make sense that he does become, one of the defenses on Miro's road to whatever his title reign ends up being in the end. Miro is my pick. As I kind of foreshadowed when I talked about Moxley, I could see Moxley being an eventual challenger here, especially because Kingston, let's say Kingston doesn't quit and Miro hurts him, storyline wise, because of the clutch. That could be easily the next feud. Again, the question is like, who in AEW are the guys that really are untouchable? We've pretty much seen that with MJF, and we'll find out at this show whether that's remains true or not. But I feel like Moxley is one of those guys, and I think Miro is so far. But what comes next? So lots of chatter around that. But bottom line is, should be fun. Should be a hard hitting match. Miro retains.
Yeah, I mean, again, these guys are just, I kind of feel like I said this with Mox and Kojima. They're going to beat the tar out of each other. And I'm going to love watching it. I really enjoyed, again, I apologize that it's really hard for me to differentiate between Rampage and Dynamite sometimes now. Partially because there are last week I watched them back to back because I hadn't finished Dynamite. So I finished Dynamite and watched Rampage. But Miro came out and beat up Fuego. It was on Rampage. This is on Rampage now that I'm thinking about it. Brought Fuego del Sol to the ring with him, beat him up, ripped his mask off. And I loved that Kingston came out. He had a mic, kind of was giving Miro a look like, what is your issue? brought the mic up to his lips and then went, yeah, and threw the mic and just went down to fight. I guess that was an Eddie Kingston move. It was great. And they beat the heck out of each other for a little bit, and now they're going to get a chance to do it for reals. Kingston's not the guy that you're going to beat Miro with. I've enjoyed the Miro character, so it's interesting to hear that it's not clicking for you as much, Tom. I've liked the God's favorite champion thing, and he's the chosen, whatever. Yeah, I can take or leave that part of it. But just the fact that they've gotten him back to being the killer. When they first brought him in and he was kind of doing the goofy video game stuff with Kip Sabian and the best friends and the best man, and I wasn't loving how they were using him. I think they've got him in the right vein right now. And this is what Rusev was when he was so dominant up until he ran into John Cena at WrestleMania. And then they realized he was also kind of funny. So then they, turned him into a comedy character, basically. This guy can be just a monster running through people. And then when you have a guy like that, when somebody finally beats him, it means something. We've talked about that 100 times. Miro's a guy now, I think, with the TNT title, who when somebody beats him for that TNT title, it's going to mean something. Even if it's a fluke roll-up or something like that, it's still going to mean something because you beat this unstoppable monster. Kingston's not that guy. I love Eddie Kingston. Can't wait when Jazzwares gets his first figure out. I'm going to run out and buy it. Might even pre-order that one. We'll see, just to make sure I get it. By the way, I forgot to tell you, Tom, I did get my Cody LJN style. Looks awesome. Also picked up a Kama Mustafa, but that's a different thing. Mainly because those collector's editions seem to go for a little bit of money after a while. So I grabbed that as nothing else an investment. But so big fan of Kingston, big fan of Miro, like what he's doing. Going to enjoy this. No way in heck. This is probably a 10 or a 9 when we talk confidence points for me. Miro's winning this one. Well, let's move on to the women's title match. Again, I think we both kind of said it, we could have seen Thunder Rosa in this segment. But instead, it's Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, versus Chris Statlander. They've done a nice little job building this up, making an issue for the two of them. And Britt has also brought in Jamie Hayter as some muscle behind her, which isn't bad either because Rebel was never used as muscle behind Baker. And unfortunately, Rebel has gotten hurt a few times too. I like that they've kept Rebel as a part of the entourage, though. My guess is at some point she's going to get turned on and beat up to try to make Baker a bigger heel, but that's another story they can tell down the road. Statlander is somebody who I've been high on since before she came into AEW. I had seen her in some Beyond stuff. I had seen her in some AAW things before as well, just kind of bits and pieces of her here and there. And then when she came into AEW, I was pretty high on her. Then unfortunately she got hurt right when she kind of started to get her sea legs, I felt like. So I like that she's gotten back into this spot. I guess this is also your way to get Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends on the show. Orange Cassidy is going to have some sort of interaction, I would assume, with Hayter and or Rebel at some point on the outside. That'll be fine. It'll be for what it is. It's the comedy stuff, right? It's the haha. That being said, Baker, it's funny. In a company with now CM Punk, Kenny Omega, John Moxley, the Young Bucks, Chris Jericho, all these guys, Bryan Danielson, lots of rumors about him coming in the very near future. Maybe we even see him on Sunday. Maybe even Adam Cole. And this would be a spot. Adam Cole could show up on Sunday, certainly, if they want to pair him with Britt. I don't know if it would be, does Adam Cole come down and super kick Orange Cassidy? Okay, that'd be a way you could do it. But Baker, to me, is, even with all of those people that I've just mentioned who are in the company or rumored to maybe come in, might come in, who knows, she's up there as far as most over, even though she's a heel. That crowd from AEW, it's not just Britsburg that they love her. They love her everywhere. And it's going to be hard to keep her a heel. They got to keep finding ways to keep her a heel if they want her there. I think she's going to end up having to go babyface, but do it. And I think I've said this before on the show. If you're going to ever turn her babyface, don't change her character. Just play into the fact, let her wrestle heels, basically, because this is what got her over. It's kind of the Stone Cold thing. They didn't change Stone Cold's character all that much, and when they tried to, it didn't work. Same thing with Britt. Let her keep being Britt. Maybe she doesn't do quite as many dastardly things, or at least she's doing it to people who deserve it if she does. But Baker's over. There's no way I take the title off her anytime soon, frankly. And I like Chris Statlander. I hope that Chris Statlander eventually does win the AEW Women's title down the road. But this is not her time. Britt Baker, you keep that belt on her for quite a while, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, hard pressed to disagree with anything you said there, Jim. Britt is amazing. I have incredibly enjoyed everything that she's done. It's been awesome this year to watch her get even more over, which, again, as you consider that a lot of the shows were in sparsely attended crowds due to the pandemic, and now that they're back on the road, it's just that true organic response that she's getting is ever present. So my pick is Britt Baker as well. I don't know what I could tell you that I could forecast the next year of the AEW Women's Championship. I can't say that Britt will hold it for a year, but I do agree Thunder Rosa, Chris Statlander, Ruby Soho, perhaps, and even others that we aren't even mentioning are going to be players in that scene. So it's going to be fun to watch play out.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it, and kudos to AEW, and I know Omega has had a lot to do with the women's division, at least early on. I assume he still does. It's totally an assumption, though. And whoever else is involved with that women's division, because the women's division, they wanted to have the best women's division on the planet when they started, and they didn't. The early women's stuff was rough at some points, including Britt Baker, frankly. Baker, when she first started in AEW, I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know if it was just progression along the way. But especially in ring, I wasn't loving Britt Baker early on. Coming back from her injury, and even before her injury, she had gotten really, really good. Coming back, she has been white hot, both in ring and as a character. I mean, like I said, one of the more over characters in the company. So loving what we're seeing from Britt Baker. Maybe it's Adam Baker instead of Adam Cole. Maybe they do the Mike Kanellis thing, and he takes. No, probably not. It's probably a bad idea, actually. Tom, you get the first pick on a match that, again, I think, if I had to peg a couple where I thought there was a chance we could differ, Pac Andrade could have been it, although I kind of figured you would go the same way I was on that one. But this one I'm interested in because I'm a little torn on this one, actually. Chris Jericho's AEW career on the line, him versus MJF, the final battle between the two, not to steal a line from Ring of Honor. But what say you as the first pick on Jericho MJF? Yeah,
so this is where I think these three of these final four, to me, are where things are going to get interesting. We're 6 for 6 so far. But yeah, this is where the tide might turn. I don't know. I go back with the 5 labors of Jericho, and we had this on Dynamite a few weeks ago, and then it leads to this. I don't have a problem with it, from a broad perspective. It just makes me kind of wonder, the 5th labor could have been MJF because he was annoyed with Jericho saying, hey, your 5th labor is me and your career is on the line. Instead of you can't come out to your song and you can't use your finisher.
Which was weak sauce.
I mean, when you think about all of the things that led up to it, we were, the first 3 labors were pretty wow, jaw droppers, or your eyes popped. And then it was Wardlow, then it was MJF. Okay, again, you have to use who you have, and you can't, it's hard to raise the bar every week. And we talked about that here many times, that we would have probably done something different in terms of the layout or the organization of how the labors fell out. And MJF was one of those talents I talked about in terms of incredibly protected. His one loss, his one true defeat in this promotion is a title loss to Jon Moxley. Outside of that, he does not lose. And you could argue, does he need to lose to Jericho here? I'd say no. But I don't know that that's the way they are going to go. I'll also say this, going back to Blood and Guts, it didn't seem like the Pinnacle and Inner Circle issue was done, but it certainly hasn't continued on in the same way. Now, I know that, Cash Wheeler getting hurt. And again, please, AEW, don't show that clip anymore. We know that the hook went into his arm, and we don't need any more still shots. At least I don't, because you want me to stay on my feet for your shows, not passed out on my couch. So this is a tough one. Jericho has been incredibly important and meaningful to AEW. I don't think that his career is over, but his career is on the line in this promotion. And AEW has done a great job about being very steadfast in honoring their steps. So that makes me go, does Jericho win, and is it a fluke? Like, does he not pin MJF? And then MJF can hold that over Jericho's head. And that might be the way the story continues to unfold. And maybe when MJF does eventually get pinned by Jericho, it is in the blow off to Pinnacle and Inner Circle. I don't think Jericho's time's over, so that's why my pick is Jericho, but I'm really not confident in that pick. Only because I think that the MJF has been protected and built so strong. On the flip side, in the kind of the business end of the world, AEW could go, yo, MJF, here's the time where you do the honors. And again, MJF will not lose anything by losing to Jericho here at all. I think that AEW would lose more by Jericho not being an active competitor, even though I know he's touring more and Fozzie's on the road. I got a hit on my Facebook yesterday that they're going to be here in my town on a Friday in about 3 weeks. So, I know that touring schedule is picking up. That doesn't mean Jericho can't be available for most, if not all, AEW events. So I said a lot, and I feel bad because I don't want to sway you unless you want to pick the same way. But I also want you to be able to talk about the match too and your honest thoughts. So sorry for hogging all of that.
No, you're fine. A lot of what you said is what I'm feeling too. They have protected MJF really, really well. They do, to your point. You think of the Cody Rhodes stip that he can't challenge for the world title. They have 100% stuck to that. They haven't even teased trying to get around it. Now, maybe they will down the road. Who knows? Look, it's pro wrestling. There's always ways to get out of a stipulation too if you have to. But part of me thinks they put this stipulation out there as a red herring because everybody's going to think, oh, MJF's going to win because Jericho's going on tour. We all know he's going to be part of the Rampage commentary team, which I don't mind him being part of it. 4 people in a booth's a little too much. Just my opinion on Rampage. You could cut it down to at least 3. I still think 2 is right for commentary, but 4 is a lot of people trying to get things in. And I think you lose folks pretty quickly in that. So that either being here or there, but I think it's a red herring because I think everybody's supposed to think MJF's going to win. But pro wrestling storytelling 101, Jericho made it all the way through the 4 labors. MJF beat him, but he beat him partially because he'd just gone through those 4 labors, which were supposed to be, horrible and hard and all of that. How you don't have Nick Gage as the one right before MJF, I'm a little bit baffled. But timing wise, maybe it just didn't work either. And so I get it. So I'm going Jericho as well here. And not just to protect my lead or, not have a difference, but I'm with you. I don't think Jericho's AEW in-ring career is over. And AEW's done a nice job with Stips so far. So I don't want to believe this is going to be the time where they do something and then reverse it, 2 months down the road. I think Jericho could win and still get put out so that he's now going on his tour and we won't see him for a little bit. So MJF could attack him after the bell. Somebody could debut and attack him. Somebody could return and attack him. The Inner Circle as a whole could have, not the Inner Circle, I'm sorry, the Pinnacle. I suppose the Inner Circle could too, but that would be weird. The Pinnacle as a whole could attack him, which we haven't seen, like you said, we haven't seen those factions act as factions as much anymore lately, which has been just interesting to watch play out and not really know what is going on with that. I don't understand why the Pinnacle hasn't. The Inner Circle, okay, I get a little bit, and maybe because FTR's been out on the Pinnacle side, but I like MJF. I really like MJF with backup in his group. I liked that idea. Kind of had that Ric Flair Four Horsemen vibe, which I know is what they were going for, obviously. So I'd like to see that kind of reform and become more of a focus moving forward. So maybe that plays in. Maybe Hoovy, Nick Gage, and Sean Spears and Wardlow all get involved in this match. I don't know. That'd be crazy. I can tell you right now, out of the 10 matches, when we do the rankings in FWL, in our fantasy wrestling league, sorry, just throwing acronyms around, this will be my one, which is my lowest confidence, because everything else I feel a little bit better. Even if I'm a little waffly, this is the one that I'm like, boy, this could go either way. So there it is. Jericho, you and I both have the same picks through the first seven matches. We still have the same picks. All right. So we're going to go to the World Tag Team title steel cage match. The Young Bucks defend versus the Lucha Bros. And I'm just going to edit for those who are watching on the YouTube feed. Bad punctuation there. So we'll fix that and get that back up there. But the Young Bucks defend versus the Lucha Bros. So here's my thing. The Jurassic Express had a tag title match that got ruined by interference because the Young Bucks have 47,000 people at ringside with them. So Tony Khan says, that's it. We're going to do a 4-team eliminator tournament, and the winners get a tag title shot. And this time it's going to be in a steel cage match so that everybody else can't get involved. Cool. Works for me. So Jurassic Express should win that tournament and get their title shot with nobody interfering. Why do we have the Lucha Brothers here? The Lucha Brothers can be involved in the Pac Andrade thing. That's their storyline going on. The Lucha Brothers have no reason to need to be in a steel cage match with the Young Bucks. Jurassic Express did. That was the story. I don't get why they zigged when zagging was the right move all along here. No, don't get me wrong. We've seen the Young Bucks and Lucha Bros, I don't know, 100 times, feels like. And they're always good. And this will be really good. And Rey Fenix will jump off the top of the cage and do six or seven flips on his way down before kicking somebody in the face. I mean, it's going to be great. There's going to be some great spots. But it's not the story. I just don't get it. I don't get this booking. Even though, yes, like I said, standalone match, forget story, going to be a lot of fun. Will it? If I can turn my brain off from the story piece and not be annoyed by that, I'll enjoy this match. I have no doubt. But I'm annoyed because there was a really good story to tell, and Jurassic Express winning the tag titles in a steel cage match where the other people can't interfere in front of the crowd in Chicago, which is, as I've said here, one of the best crowds, I think, in all of wrestling right now. The pop would be insane. And they've thrown it all away for whatever reason. I have no idea. I'm trying to give AEW credit and say there has to be a reason. Much like, we've heard that there was a reason they didn't, obviously Adam Page, his wife gave birth to a child. So that's what part of why they weren't doing Page and Omega at this show. Although, again, you didn't have to tell the story you told. We've been over that. Don't need to rehash. But here again, now you told a story, and again, you're not giving us what makes sense to give us at the end of the story.
Can I give you an opinion of what I thought we might get before you make your pick? Just because I think it adds to what you're saying. Before I watched Rampage, and I did not watch Rampage live, and I was not spoiled by anything, I truly believed that the Young Bucks were going to interfere in the match on Friday, and then this was going to become a 3-way cage match. And the Bucks would have thought, hey, we got one up on you, no contest, or it's a whatever. But then they would be the ones going, oh, crap, now we have both of the teams coming for us. And that gets Lucha Express. Well, there you go. It gets Jurassic Express in the match, and then also the Lucha Bros. But it also gets them on this card. So I hear you, and I understand your plight against them not being here, because that's what the story was. I'm okay with the Lucha Bros, but I do understand your point of view. So, and I thought the 3-way could have been fun.
And if that would have been the way they gone, that wouldn't have bothered me. I could have dealt with Brothers in a match on the show too. I could have worked, and maybe they still will. We have Dynamite and Rampage to go. One of those shows, I believe Dynamite has an 8-man tag with Lucha Bros and Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks and Good Brothers, I think it is.
I feel
That
like
would make
it's other members of the Elite that aren't the Good Brothers, but maybe I'm wrong.
okay. Maybe it's Nakazawa and Cutler. I don't know. Good Lord, let's hope not. But anyways, there is an 8-man tag, so perhaps something happens there and things change, and that would be fine. Yeah.
So if Jurassic Express gets added, no matter what we pick here, are we going to throw this out?
Yeah, I think we have to.
Okay.
Because that would almost assuredly change my pick, to be honest. If Jurassic Express gets added, I probably would pick Jurassic Express. I can't pick them here because they're not currently listed. I'm going to go Bucks because I think Jurassic Express is the right team to take the titles off of the Bucks. I just don't think the Lucha Brothers kind of came out of nowhere again. And I love that they're using them as a team again because I love them as a team, but I just feel like they hadn't been used for so long that all of a sudden switching the tag titles to them feels strange. Although if you would have told me that we'd be this long into AEW and the Lucha Brothers had not been the tag champs, I might have told you were crazy.
Yeah, that last part's the most surprising thing, I think. And, I think you can make an argument here that the Lucha Brothers could unseat the Bucks. I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, I don't think, though, that makes the most sense. And that goes back to, again, I think a narrative we like to use a lot when we talk about title switches and title transfers, which is one and the same.
Annette says it is the Good Brothers, by the way, tonight.
Okay. The title, as it moves to the next person or team, really needs to increase and validate them further. It does that here if this were Jurassic Express. It doesn't for the Lucha Brothers. They were really already made. So I think the big thing here to maybe think about, and maybe you did, maybe you didn't, there's history at All Out between these teams. So go back 2 years ago, and it was the AAA titles, and it was a ladder match, and the Lucha Bros won. So to me, this is the Young Bucks getting the favor returned to them by retaining the titles here. And again, I think that regardless of the steel cage, something is going to happen. What that is, I don't know. But yeah, if this match plays out as is and does not change between now and Friday, at the end of the day for Rampage, the Bucks are my pick as well.
Yeah, I like what you're thinking there, Tom. And totally agree on where those belts should go next. So you get the first pick in what we're calling the semi-main. We'll see how it all gets laid out in match order on Sunday, but I'd be a little surprised if this wasn't the semi-main. CM Punk, for the first time in 7 years, steps back in the ring in an actual wrestling match. Obviously, we know he's worked some TV show wrestling for the Heels show on Stars, which I don't have Stars, and I would like to see it at some point. Might even grab myself a month of Stars sometime if I've got a little extra time to run through it. But first in ring for a major promotion match in 7 years, CM Punk, Darby Allin. Go to it, Tom.
Well, I'm going to first and foremost say I see this match being in the main event final slot on the show. I know that the AEW World title is important, and they've done a really good job in building that match. We'll talk about that as we make that pick momentarily. I'm sorry, however, though, in Chicago, first time in 7 years in a major professional wrestling venue, match, organization, ring, you name it. I think AEW would be setting themselves up for a problem by not closing the show with this. I also think it helps bring Darby Allin up a notch in that spot as well. I think Darby's already escalating in that direction. This is gonna bring him even further into that mix. This is a tough match because I think you can argue, the collective could argue each guy deserves to win. Each guy should win. CM Punk should win because he's a major star. He's a Hall of Famer. He's come to AEW and he's in his hometown. And this is just all of the superlatives that you can wrap around this match, they apply. Flip that over, Darby Allin is part of the future. how many pillars hold up AEW in the future? 4, 6, 8, 12, whatever that number is. Darby's one of those, in my opinion. He needs to stay healthy. That being said, over the last 5 years and all the crazy things he's done, it doesn't appear to be that he's not well physically, but it just takes that one bad move to put him there. I hope that we don't ever have that become a reality. I can't wait for this. I literally think this is going to blow the roof off the venue. And even the other question too is, again, we talked about this before, what type of rust exists for CM Punk? And does that even matter? Is that going to even matter here? Are they going to be able to do a bunch of like gaga around the match and it not even have to matter because the crowd's going to be so on fire? The one thing that I would say, like, so juxtapose this with the Becky Lynch return a few weeks ago at SummerSlam. We all wanted Bianca and Becky Lynch to have a barn burner. We know that they could. Maybe they couldn't that night because of a number of circumstances. Can we apply that same question here for this match? And not on the end of Darby, but more on the end of CM Punk. I don't like this pick, but I do think it makes sense long-term. CM Punk wins. I don't think this is the only time he and Darby Allin square off in the ring. I do think that I think CM Punk is a guy where his first loss in AEW has to really be impactful. Maybe it's here on Sunday. I don't know, because I think that still would have that impact. But I don't know that you do that right out of the gate here. I laughed when this, for those of you watching us on our YouTube feed, when the banner that you put up popped on the screen. In my mind, I smiled and said, it's almost as if we were doing like a "What's Your Dream Match" podcast. And here you have CM Punk versus Darby Allin on the screen. But that's our reality. So we're getting this on Sunday. And I'm over the moon. I've been on a proverbial high because of the return of CM Punk to pro wrestling and AEW and the energy around it. So much so too that I've always been a huge fan of Darby Allin. So now it's like all of these great synergistic things colliding at the same time. I think it's going to be magic on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with you about how like CM Punk versus Darby Allin just looks funny on the screen, doesn't it? Like, I agree with you. It kind of like, oh, okay, we're doing fantasy booking 101. Because this would be something like they picked the perfect opponent, I think. We'll see Sunday for him for his first match, because I think Darby is over enough so it doesn't feel just like CM Punk versus nothing against the guy, but QT Marshall, for instance, where you'd be like, wow, you get a first match in 7 years and that's what you're going to do. They also didn't go CM Punk versus Kenny Omega and blow through things that they got time. Like if Punk's really sticking around for a couple of years, and it sounds like he's got a multi-year deal and he's all in, no pun intended. Like you got time to get to Punk and Omega. You got time to get to Punk and somebody in the Bucks. I don't know. Somehow you got to get there. Punk and MJF. My goodness, that promo battle would be phenomenal, and we'll get there someday. Punk Miro, Punk Jericho, Punk. I mean, there's a million things you can do that will be really, really fun to watch.
Can I ask you one question? Just I wanted to know because this came up as they're running the promo. It was for this, but then when there's a lot of the bumpers, they're like, "Hey, CM Punk's in AEW. Wait for his next, words tonight or Friday, or whatever." In his first promo, and we never really touched on this, he goes, "I've got scores to settle with some people in the back." I haven't given that enough thought, and I don't have a good response now. But do you have any idea who you think he might be referring to?
Jericho came to mind. They, of course, had the WrestleMania match. I don't know. Pure speculation. Could he and Colt Cabana bury the hatchet? I think a Punk Cabana match on AEW, whether it's on Dynamite, Rampage, or even a pay-per-view, but probably more Dynamite or Rampage, for us longtime fans would be really fun. It doesn't need to be a main event of a pay-per-view for the world title, anything like that. But for those of us that know them, or, okay, super stupid dream match here. Punk needs a partner because the Young Bucks are beating him down or the Good Brothers are beating him down, and we get the Second City Saints return, which for a lot of AEW fans, I think they'd know that. I think they'd know who those two were together. So could there have been a veiled thing at Cabana there? Only if they buried the hatchet. Everything I had heard before was that they were not on speaking terms. There's a lawsuit. It's ugly. It's personal. All of that. We don't want to go into that probably, but if they've been able in any way to bury the hatchet, I look forward to interaction with them. If they haven't been able to, I don't think we ever see them on the same screen.
I do think it's worth noting, and you may be aware of this, you may not. I think that Cabana was not at Rampage when Punk debuted. I think he was at the Gathering of the Juggalos, which is very interesting. Again, I know timing being what it is. That's a booking Cabana chose to take. And AEW could have said no, or they knew Punk was coming in. They're like, yeah, you guys aren't on the same page. Go ahead and take that booking.
Right. I've heard nothing that says that they've buried the hatchet in any way. Even if they never appear on screen together, I just hope as people they can bury the hatchet and work through whatever their issues are and whatever promises were made or weren't made. And that's all between, Colt Cabana and CM Punk and as real people, not their characters. But Jericho was the first one. Cabana popped to mind, but I don't think he was meaning Cabana because that's a real life thing. And unless they were going storyline, Jericho was the first to pop to my head, though. I agree with you. This could go either way, but I also agree with you. I don't think AEW is dumb enough to beat Punk in Chicago on his first night out. I just don't think you can do that. Punk's my pick here. I think you can still get Darby Allin over. Like, I don't think you're burying, some people, they bring in Punk and put him over Allin. It buries Allin. It depends on how it's done. I think you can still have a match here. I agree with you. We wanted the Becky and Bianca barn burner. I think we get the barn burner here. Punk didn't come back to work a 28-second match. That's my belief. I could be proven wrong. I think Punk wants to show that he can go. Punk's a prideful guy. Let's just call it what it is, right? Punk is Punk's biggest fan. And that's okay. To get to the level that CM Punk and most of the people on this card, all of the people on this card have gotten to, you got to have a little ego. That's just, you got it. That's how it works. I don't think this is CM Punk coming in and going, well, of course you have to put me over because I'm the big star. I don't think that at all. But I just think booking-wise, you got to keep CM Punk strong for now. I actually think a loss hurts Punk more than hurts Allin, which is kind of crazy to say. Not that I think it really hurts either one of them, but you have some detractors probably out there who are going to think, well, Punk's got to prove that he can still go. And if he loses, do those boo birds get louder? And, he doesn't have it anymore. Unless you're going to tell a story where Punk has to refine his passion, but you haven't told me anything in the story so far that's made me think you're going that direction. If anything, his passion looks super rejuvenated. So easily the match I'm most looking forward to on this card. I mean, it's this, and then there's a large gap between this and the next match for me, even though I'm looking forward to a lot of things on this card. So stacked card, maybe their best pay-per-view card ever. I'd really have to look back through their old cards. But this thing's stacked. And I wouldn't be shocked if this match goes on last, to your point, Tom. Because how do you follow CM Punk in Chicago? They did it on Rampage, but they also didn't try to do it like a world title match or anything. They did it with other things. So I suppose you could start the night with this match too, but I think you build to the anticipation for Punk's match. I don't think you kick the night off with this. And they haven't. AEW has done a nice job of not doing the Bobby Lashley, Drew McIntyre to start the night thing. AEW builds throughout the night to their bigger matches for the most part. So this is definitely late in the card. Wouldn't be shocked if it goes on last. Or the other option for going on last is our world title match. Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage. And I'm going to go out on a limb and guess that we're going to be 10 for 10 on picks here because I don't think you're going to go the other direction. So Christian Cage is not my pick. Kenny Omega is going to win this match. when Omega, again, we've talked about this with Roman Reigns, with Bobby Lashley, with Miro. When you beat Kenny Omega at this point, it's going to mean something. Christian Cage beat Kenny Omega, and it meant something for the Impact title. Christian Cage beating Omega here would mean something, but Christian Cage doesn't need that. Adam Page is still the guy who needs to beat Omega for this title. I don't care if you bring in Punk, Bryan Danielson, Bray Wyatt, Adam Cole, all of those guys, great, wonderful. Malachi Black, who you and I talked about before we hit record, Malachi Black doesn't have a match on this card. And looking up and down the card right now, unless he comes out in some vein that I'm not expecting, I don't think we see him on Sunday. Crazy that we have a 10-match pay-per-view. No Malachi Black, no Cody, no Jurassic Express, no Orange Cassidy, although probably gets involved with a women's match somewhere. Their roster is so deep right now, and they're adding to it guys like potentially Bryan Danielson and potentially Bray Wyatt and potentially Adam Cole. Holy smokes. And that's not even a talk. It sounds like Buddy Matthews might be going to Impact, formerly Buddy Murphy, but he's still out there and could end up in AEW and would be crazy good in the ring with a lot of these guys. I don't know what that has to do with Omega and Cage, but I just thought it needed to be said.
Well, let's park there for a minute though, before you make your pick and my pick too. I think actually you've made your pick indirectly. If you're AEW, do you have, and let's just say it's Cole and Bryan Danielson right now. Do you have both of them debut on Sunday, or do you hold that off? How much is too much is the question I think I'm asking.
I would debut one of them Sunday. I would have one of them, and I don't know where, because like I said, unless Cole comes out and super kicks Orange Cassidy, which could make some sense if you're gonna pair him with Britt Baker. There's nothing here where there's a mystery partner. There's nothing here where there's a mystery opponent. There's nothing, so there isn't anything that just screams at me like, oh, there it is. Could you have Adam Cole interfere in the Jericho MJF match? Sure. But are you going to team Adam Cole with MJF? I don't know that you need to do that. I guess if I debuted either of them, here's what I would do, and this might go against a little bit of the booking that I think they're going to do with Punk. But you have Punk beat Allen, and then he takes the mic, and he says, once again, I'm CM Punk, and I'm the best in the world, and hopefully Final Countdown, although I've read that Europe wanted like $1 million a use for the song rights.
Per use
on pay-per-view.
Holy cow.
Which is why WWE couldn't use it. Now maybe their prices come down. Maybe Tony Khan knows the lead singer of Europe, or I don't know, who knows, something. That would be awesome. Or honestly, Rise of the Valkyrie that Daniel Bryan used in WWE is, I'm pretty sure, public domain. So you could actually use at least a really close version of his WWE theme as well. Final Countdown, obviously, look, I'm a Ring of Honor boy since day one, so if that hits, I'm gonna be jumping around my living room and fanboying out. But so that would make some sense to me. If Punk says I'm best in the world, and then all of a sudden, boom, the music hits, and Bryan walks out, and they just stare at each other, and then Bryan walks back into the back. They don't fight, they don't even talk. Maybe they just have a stare down. And you're like, oh my god, I have to watch Dynamite and see what happens. That could work. Would be a really cool ending to All Out if they end with the Punk Allen match. That'd be cool. But I would debut one of them. The other one, if they're both coming in, and if they're both coming in really, really soon, I would hold the other one off probably until the 22nd when they're at Arthur Ashe Stadium.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. I hadn't thought a lot about it, and I think that AEW has done really well with some of the guys that have come in lately. Malachi Black's debut, of course, the Punk return again. We retrospectively we can look back and go, everyone knew it was coming, and they still knocked it out of the park. And again, if there are the Coles, the Danielsons, the Bray Wyatts, or whatever they call him in the pipeline. But if they're in the pipeline, you have to be strategic about how and when and where.
Totally agreed. And I agree. I think if you bring them both in and you bring in Ruby Soho on Sunday, at some point you lose people in the shuffle. And that may happen a little anyways, but yeah, I agree. Soho's debut, I think, as the joke, if she's the Joker, would be a nice way to debut her. I don't think that's a Rampage or Dynamite ending segment for Ruby to come in. I think she's a nice addition to the women's division. Look forward to seeing her in the ring. But I don't think that's a Bryan Danielson or Adam Cole.
The other thing that I'll just mention, and it may be nothing, it may be something. If AEW continues to like always over-deliver, there will be a time that comes where they can't over-deliver anymore. And over-deliver could be a lot of ways. It could be match quality, it can be debuts, it can be holy crap moments. Again, if you do that here, then you're building kind of an expectation amongst the fan base. And there's going to finally be a time in a day where I'm guessing that doesn't happen anymore. So just being, and I'm sure that's on their radar. There's Tony Khan is this incredibly astute businessman, and clearly, for all of the naysayers early on, they're eating crow.
Yeah, and I will say for like Dynamite last week, it was okay. It was fine. It wasn't what I would have followed Punk up with. Like I probably, you're going to get a lot of eyeballs on that show on Dynamite, so I probably would have loaded it up a little bit more. I don't know that Malachi Black, Brock Anderson as a main event is what I would have done. You could have the match. You'd have it on the show. That's fine. But I don't know that that's what I would have. I probably would have had some hot, main event. But they're going to have shows like that. And the funny part is it was fine. And if it didn't happen to follow the CM Punk debut, I might have even enjoyed it more. But they've set the bar so high. Like to your point that, yeah, it's tough sometimes. I think back to those taped Friday night Dynamites. I think they were taped. Some of them were live. But those Friday night Dynamites, when they were preempted for the NBA playoffs, they were okay. They were placeholders more than anything. There weren't huge storyline shifts happening. Where now it feels like every week you got to tune in. Even a Rampage, they've done a nice job so far. We'll see if they continue it. With Rampage not feeling like just the B show. They've made Rampage important. There have been important things happening on Rampage. CM Punk debuted on Rampage, for goodness sakes. So, yeah, it will be interesting. I agree with you. When does it become too much of a good thing, or they just simply can't sustain what they've been offering? And I think we're in a weird time right now where there just happen to be a lot of potential debuts, not really returns for AEW, returns to pro wrestling, that isn't sustainable moving forward, unless WWE just keeps cutting 20 people every month. And then I guess you'll get a new crop of folks and you might get one or two out of each month. But at some point, you got to think those back off a little bit too. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's good for them that Bray Wyatt isn't available until the week before Full Gear, because at least you don't have to try to cram him in this month too. You got a little time. You can wait it, assuming you're bringing him in. Well, let's talk about that main event a little bit more, Tom. I think they've done a nice job. I give them credit. We have a friend who is connected with AEW who said, by the time this match hits, I think fans will be happy with it. When there was squawking from me and others that why tell the story you told with Adam Page if you're not going to pay it off the way that it makes sense to pay it off? I still hold that view. That doesn't change that. But I'm much more okay with the Cage Omega match. I still think it was wrong to do what, I don't agree with how they did it, how they got there. But having Cage beat Omega for the Impact title, I think was great because it tells the story that Cage can beat Omega. Cage darn near got him again on Friday night, but then, they sacrificed Brandon Cutler, who didn't see that coming. I mean, the point of Brandon Cutler in a match is for Brandon Cutler to take the loss and, keep that off of Kenny Omega. But there's no planet I see Christian Cage winning the AEW World title, at least at this time, maybe down the road, but I don't need Cage as the AEW World Champion ever, to be perfectly honest. And I think Cage has been fine in the ring. And I think this will be a good match. I think they'll tell a good story. They both are very capable workers, but Omega and super high confidence on that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're still getting this, and it was such a big part of the debut Rampage episode, which has actually really exceeded my personal expectations. Maybe it didn't exceed other expectations because maybe people thought, hey, it's flipping Kenny Omega, and Christian Cage is not a spring chicken, but he's also not proven to not be able to go. And his Tron entrance, for lack of a better term, I don't think it's called the AEW Tron, but outwork everyone. Well, that's what he wants to live by. So yeah, there's no way that the title is changing here. Kenny Omega retains. You and I are pretty lockstep in our opinion that Hangman Page needs to be the guy that dethrones Omega when that happens. I think we'll both, if that doesn't materialize for some reason, and again, save for like an injury that you can't predict, that would be the only reason why I would see that not happening. At the same time, who knows? We've been wrong before, Jim, and I'm sure we'll be wrong again. Clearly here, we're both not wrong with our Omega pick and going 10 for 10. So listeners, thanks. When we come back and talk about this show next week, there won't be a change, in the standings. Jim will still have a lead. That being said, the records and how this show plays out will maybe change the way things look. So yeah.
So we've got our all out picks in, and then our next picks.
Death Before Dishonor.
Death Before Dishonor, which is the following week, isn't it? Yes.
Yep.
And so far there are 7 matches, I believe, announced so far for Death Before Dishonor. Did you see so this is an aside, a non-AEW, did you happen to see the 6-man team that Violence Unlimited will be facing?
I did not. I heard it was a past, present, and future kind of pure competitor. But did they announce them formally on week by week?
They did.
I would love to have you tell me.
John Walters is the past.
Makes sense. Yeah.
The present is LSG.
Okay.
And the future is Lee Moriarty.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That was one that I was like, oh, I've seen a little bit of him in the MLW Battle Riot. Obviously, it's a Battle Royal, so it's hard to get. But I've heard a ton of buzz around the guy. And I know he worked the PWG show when they came back with Mystery Vortex, which I saw you posted the preview for. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. Did the preview happen to say when it might be available?
It's available for pre-order on PWG's site. I looked at High Spots on my mobile device yesterday, and I did not see it, but I'm sure that is maybe just it not being the website being not mobile friendly. I would imagine it's up for pre-sale on High Spots as well. That's who I'll go through to get it. And yes, the clips of him and Gresham will whet your appetite even more. So that's cool. I'm really happy, and I would have been excited no matter what, but you're getting the organic response of me being told by you. So I would have very much believed Walters and LSG to comprise that team. If you had said guest before you told me, I would not have guessed Lee Moriarty. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think that was pretty fun. And there is still a match yet to be announced between 2 people who recently have been released from another company. They did announce on Week by Week that September 3rd, so this Friday, they will announce who those 2 people are. Early guess for me, by the way, just totally a little bit of a guess, but seeing kind of who's being announced for different shows and those kinds of things, I'm guessing Alex Zane and Jake Atlas, but that's just or Ari Sterling, as he used to be known.
The rumbling I had heard was Tony Nese and Buddy Matthews. So we'll see. Right. So that's going to be the fun part about the who and the what and comprise that match.
I'm a big Buddy Matthews fan. I think I've said that on here before. Buddy Murphy in the past. Just picked him up actually in our fantasy wrestling league because I think we're about to start seeing him just about everywhere now that he is, as of today, totally released and free. Made a little unfortunate tweet yesterday, but he apologized. So let's let people apologize and let them be better people. Sometimes I think in the world we get a little too, somebody did something stupid, quickly realized it and apologized, and we don't want to forgive. But let's be better with that. He's trying to be better. Let's be better to him as well. High Spots does not have it up yet, Tom, just for what it's worth.
Okay.
The Making of a Varsity Athlete is the most recent one, which that goes all the way back to 2019. Yeah, December 2019. They don't even have the. Was there a 2020? Did PWG even have an early year show? I know the March one got canceled. I don't remember if they had.
No, I'm pretty certain their last show was fall of 2019, and by fall I mean anytime
December,
in that last.
Actually.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, the Making of a Varsity Athlete was December of 2019. So Super Dragon, look out! Maybe he'll come into AEW. Doubt it. Well, now that we've as I predicted, gone down a few rabbit holes here at the end of the show. I think All Out's going to be a fun show. We'll both see it sometime, probably after it airs live. So don't look for any live reactions on our social media if you interact with us there. You can interact with us on social media for the podcast, though, as well. We do have a Twitter feed, which right now mostly posts when we have new episodes. But if we start getting a little more interaction, you never know, might happen. So at Two Spot Monkeys on Twitter or Two Spot Monkeys on Facebook as well. So we don't have an Instagram because I don't know. What would we really put on Instagram, Tom? Pictures of our lovely faces? I don't really know.
The figures we find out in the wild, I don't know.
Yeah. True. You found that sweet looking Pentagon. Did you buy the Pentagon, by the way?
I did. You buy the Pentagon. Yes.
Very nice. Very nice.
The rhombus wasn't available, so I grabbed the Pentagon.
Bad math jokes. Dad jokes, maybe even from a dad. Yeah, I grabbed the Kama Mustafa, as I said, or Kama. I guess they're not using the Mustafa part, but Kama.
He was the Supreme Fighting Machine, Kama.
Supreme Fighting Machine, absolutely. Looks good, but snagged that one, and yeah, they didn't really have. They had the Aleister Black, but I already have that. So
I saw the Bam Bam Bigelow week from Series 11, like Legends, and with the W World title, and it was awesome, but the package was not in good shape. So that's always a deal breaker for me. If the package doesn't look good, it's a no go. Yeah, because I don't open my figures up, so that's the other challenge. If I open them up, I wouldn't care.
Absolutely. I'd buy any banged up. In fact, I'd buy the damaged packaging ones online because they're cheaper. But I'm the same way. I don't open them, and make storage a little bit tougher, certainly. But I fear for the day that I have a child and I have to put all of my figures up higher, and because if my kid opens them, I'd hate to have to sell the kid. So, but. Don't let my wife hear that.
That's not yours.
Right. Anyways, interact with us on social media. Send us an email to spotmonkeys@gmail.com. Make a comment on either the podcast apps. Give us a review there. Make a comment on the YouTube. Spammers, go away. I'm tired of deleting your spam comments on our YouTube. Don't need them. But otherwise, Tom, anything you want to say before we sign off?
No, I hope everyone who follows AEW is as excited as Jim and I are, and hopefully that came across as you listen today. We can't wait to come back and talk about it next week, and of course, talking about Ring of Honor's Death Before Dishonor, and maybe some NFL too.
We'll try to cram it in there, if nothing else. Go Bears, go! And on that note, we will see you. Talk to you. We won't see you. Maybe we'll see you. You might see us. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody. Be safe.